On the quiet corner where Maple Street curved gently into Hawthorne Lane stood a modest little shop called The Turned Page. It wasn't flashy. No bright sign, no advertisements, no fancy displays. Just a weathered wooden door with a brass handle and a window that fogged up every time the kettle boiled inside. People didn't usually find the shop unless they needed to. That's how Eliza Harper, the owner, liked it. The bookshop had been in her family for generations, and she treated it less like a business and more like a garden. Something to tend, not something to grow big and loud. Inside, the shop was a warm tangle of narrow aisles, overflowing shelves, and wooden ladders on creaky wheels. Books were stacked on every available surface. Under tables, behind the counter, even on a small chair that no one was ever quite brave enough to move. The scent was part dust, part tea, and part old magic, though Eliza would never say that out loud. Each morning, she arrived with a thermos of peppermint tea and opened the shop by turning the sign in the window to "Come in, reader." She never used a cash register. Instead, there was a ceramic bowl labeled, "Pay what you can, leave what you must." It worked just fine. The shop had regulars, of course. Retired teachers, daydreaming teenagers, and curious children whose parents didn't mind them getting a little lost in stories. But the real magic began on a rainy Thursday afternoon. A boy, no more than 12, dashed in from the cold. His shoes squeaked on the floor, and his coat was soaked. He stood there, wide-eyed, taking in the strange, golden quiet of the place. His name was Theo. Eliza didn't ask questions. She handed him a towel and said, "There's a chair by the radiator and books that don't mind being read with wet sleeves." Theo didn't speak much. He wandered the shop like someone searching for something they'd once lost but couldn't quite remember. On his third visit, Eliza handed him a worn paperback. "The Secret Garden. This one's waiting for you," she said. He read it 3 times, then asked for another. Theo became part of the shop's rhythm. He came every day after school, always quiet, always careful. Over time he started helping, res-tacking shelves, sorting returned books, brushing dust off hardcovers. Eliza taught him how to mend a spine with thread and glue, how to spot a first edition, and how to brew tea properly. "You don't just sell books here," he said once. "No," Eliza replied. "We give people back parts of themselves." Years passed. Theo grew taller, his voice deeper, but he never stopped coming. Even when other kids rushed off to clubs or sports, he chose the shop. He read stories to children in the reading nook and learned how to find just the right book for a broken heart or a wandering soul. And Eliza grew older. Her hands, once firm and nimble, began to shake slightly. She spent more time in the back room, wrapped in shawls and reading by the little fireplace. Theo began to open the shop himself some mornings. Dusty, the calico cat, who had long claimed the window seat, followed him now instead. One winter morning the shop didn't open. No light in the window. No creaking sign. No tea kettle on. The town noticed. Not loudly but in whispers. People walked slower past the corner. Children peeked through the window, hoping to see the familiar figure of Eliza wiping her glasses or arranging the poetry section. A week later, the bell above the door rang again. The window glowed once more. The sign flipped. And the scent of tea drifted onto the street. Inside, Theo stood behind the counter, older now, but with the same quiet eyes. Dusty curled at his feet. Eliza had left him the shop, along with a letter written in blue ink. "Stories find who they need. You did. Now let them find others." He kept everything the same. The cracked tile by the door, the threadbare rug, the bowl for coins and IOUs. But he added a new shelf near the front labeled, "Books That Changed Me." He didn't say whose stories they were, but anyone who read one seemed to walk out a little taller. One spring afternoon, a little girl, dripping from the rain, slipped into the shop. She didn't say a word, just stared at the rows of books with wide, wondering eyes. Theo smiled gently. He reached beneath the counter and pulled out a thin novel with a green cover. "This one's waiting for you," he said, passing it to her. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the stories continued.